And welcome back to another InDesign video. In this one, we're going to do a 3-column poster all about the Beluga XL, which is a kind of fun-looking plane, which you'll see in a minute. But basically, it's going to be going all the way from the start and looking at how to do various sort of aspects of the project. So to start with, we're going to do this tabloid size here. And we're going to go into inches, which is 11 by 17. All right, so we just need one page. Facing pages is for sort of magazines, like internal pages, when you have like inner margins and things like that. So it's going to be 3 columns. And then, so we need to look at basically the margins and the bleed. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this to 5/8 of an inch, which is 0.625. And then we're going to change these ones. We'll have to deselect that, and we'll change this to 0.25, and that one to 0.25 as well. And then we need 1/8 of an inch on all sides for the bleed. It's going to be 1.25. So just click on this box and they will change. All right, so that is basically the setup for the document. So we will press create. Okay, so now you can see what the document looks like. What we're going to do now is then we're going to go to the rectangle frame tool. So we click on that, and we're basically going to make a huge box all around the whole thing. Just to make sure I get rid of my rulers. Don't really need those here. All right, so we'll draw a little box here. All we'll do is just to ensure that we've basically drawn it correctly, we'll just make sure we go back to the selection tool. And we'll just check where that bleed is, and we'll make sure that each of the column lines, I think I may have actually just got it perfectly, but it looks pretty good actually. So is this bottom one correct? Yeah, so it sort of just snaps into it. So as soon as you can't see the line, and it's pretty straightforward to do that. Now we can press Control D. And you can see here we go, we've got our background, which is going to be the cirrus. There's some interesting cloud types. It's actually worth looking up cloud types, and you can create this in Photoshop as well. There's a whole thing in Photoshop called sky replacement, which is what I actually did here. So we're going to put that in there. So now we're going to actually add the components onto the stage, like the content of the project. And we don't want to actually accidentally move the sky around or like drag it slightly or something like that, because that can easily happen, right? So what we're going to do, we can see we've got layer 1 here. So we'll do actually a new layer. And this is going to be basically our content. And so we want to make sure basically that this background here is not going to do anything. So once we do that, we can reselect our content, and off we go. Okay, now we're going to click here onto the rectangle frame tool, and we're going to basically choose an ellipse frame. So just because of the actual sizing of it, basically a 65.5 inch on the width and height is actually going to fit perfectly in here. So let's do that. So we'll just draw it randomly, make sure we hold down Shift and try and get to 6.5 inch. There we go. And we can go back to the selection tool, and we're going to basically just move this into position somewhere in the middle. And you can see when I go over here, you can see that it's sort of fitting in perfectly with that vertical line, the blue vertical line between the other vertical lines basically. And you're also going to get that one as well, the magenta line across there. So that basically can let us put the ellipse in there. All right, now we can press Control D. All right, so I actually put the image over here. So once you press Control D, you find your image that you want. I'm going to put it in there. So this is the image we want. And we're going to right click here, and we're going to go to Fitting, and we're going to go Fill Frame Proportionally. And then I'll just move it to a sort of reasonable location here. Okay, so now we're going to choose the color of basically the border. So we'll choose our color here, which is going to be 25, 100, 125. And then we'll click on the stroke here, and we'll make sure the stroke is about 10 points. All right, so we've got some information about this thing. Control A, Control C, get rid of that. And we'll click on our text tool here. What we'll do is we'll create basically a text box which is going to cover this whole area here. So about that size. And again, we want to just, and we'll paste that in. We'll Control A, make it so we can actually read it. So more like about 24 points. We can make it even bigger than that actually. 30, there you go. Just because I want to actually cover it, and I'll show you like while we're doing that in a moment. So there's basically our text. Do want to make sure though that the text box itself is in a good position. So just make sure we're going to have it right. It looks like it's in a pretty solid place there. And of course, like there's a thing with basically double clicking. You can double, triple, or quadruple click here. What we'll do is we'll just do this and see what we've got in terms of font. We have quite a lot of cool fonts. Let's do something like that. And we'll just bump this size up to 60 points instead. And what we can do here is also, we've got, if we look on this button here, so if we set the color of the swatch here to 25, 100, 125, we do add to swatches. So what we can then do is we can select our text here and we go into our swatches panel. And that will basically give you the same color as the swatch there. And then the final thing here is we basically need to open a new panel, which is basically the text wrap panel. And the text wrap panel basically looks like this. And you just click on this one in the middle, wrap around object shape. We're just going to increase the spacing there. So yeah, so that is basically the finished product there.